So you've been doing an audio podcast, maybe even for years, but now you know you need to add video. Maybe you want to publish your podcast on YouTube or create those video clips for TikTok and Reels. This way you have something to share and promote your podcast. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to transition to adding video to your audio podcast and how to make that video component actually compelling rather than just turning on the camera and seeing talking heads the whole time. And at the end, I want to give you some tips for helping carry your audience from that audio-only platform to your video show. Now, of course, adding video to your podcast, you're going to need a camera, and the best one is probably already in your pocket. You can use your mobile device as a webcam, whether it's continuity camera or using some third-party apps. Get yourself a mobile tripod and clamp, and all of a sudden you have a high-quality camera right here that you can use for your video podcast. We have several videos on building a video podcast setup. I'll put one up here in the upper right-hand corner and in the video description. I'll walk through all the gear from a beginner, intermediate, and advanced video podcast setup, and you can decide which is best for you. The one other piece of gear you might want, aside from a camera, is a light. You can get an inexpensive LED light or even a ring light. This way your video podcast can look and sound good. If you don't have any lighting or a budget to get more lights, just make sure you're sitting facing a window. Don't put a window behind you, then you're going to get that silhouette look. Face your window, maybe throw a sheet over it to diffuse the light, and that'll be good enough for now. So you have your camera, and now you're recording video during your podcast. Assuming you and your co-host both have video, there's lots of things you can do like sharing your screen, showing things on camera, and even playing video files during the recording that can make your editing process even easier and make your video podcast compelling. Of course, we recommend recording your video podcast with Riverside. Not only do you get super high quality audio, you can record up to 4K video, and everything is recorded locally on your devices and your co-host or guest, and then those get uploaded to the cloud. This way your video and audio are never affected by internet blips or drops. You get that high quality, uninterrupted recording every time with Riverside. Now here I am in the Riverside studio, and the first thing we can do is share our screen. Maybe you're talking about news and you have some websites pulled up, or you're talking about products or software updates. Those probably have a website you can show. And here in Riverside, we actually have a share screen tool here at the bottom. And at any point while you're recording, you can share your entire screen at a time or just choose a specific window. Let's say I want to show the Riverside website. Well, here I've chosen this window specifically. I can now scroll down, and I'm showing this while I'm recording. When you do this during your recording, you can then put it all together in the Riverside editor. We'll actually do it for you using our AI layouts, and we'll focus on whatever you're sharing and then put you and your guests or co-hosts small picture-in-picture in the upper right-hand corner. To stop screen sharing, I can just click the icon at the bottom, and then you're back to full screen video. Whether you're sharing images, slides, websites, or applications on your computer, all of that can make your video podcast more compelling. Number 2, you're a video podcast now, so show things on camera. Maybe you're talking about a piece of technology, like a phone or mobile tripod. Well, go ahead and actually show it. Whatever you're referring to, your audio listeners will hear it, but then you can hold it up to the camera. If you have a mirrorless camera or DSLR with really good autofocus, you can hold it up close to the camera. A really easy way to add some visual differences throughout your recording. Or maybe you're talking about an application, photo or video on your phone. You can also just keep it on your phone and show your phone screen to the camera, and that'll also add a visual difference in your recording. Also, when you record with Riverside, you also have the media board tool. If I click media down here in the lower right-hand corner, I can upload video and audio files up to 100 megabytes in size, and then these will be saved in my studio and I can play at any time during the show. Let's say I have a video here. This is actually a countdown video. It will show here in a preview, but I can just click live, and now this video is going to play large right here. This will show up large in our AI layouts if you're using our editor, and this is a great way to show video or play audio clips during your recording. It could be clips from the news or videos you've created for your show. It's easy to upload them here. They stay in your studio for as long as you'd like, and you actually get separate tracks even with your media board files and screen shares. Then when you go to the recording page in Riverside, I can scroll down and you'll see every screen share and media board file will have a separate video track. You can then download that video or the synced video. That will put blank space at the beginning and end, so all your tracks are the same length. That makes it easy to line up in an external editor like Premiere or Final Cut. And you can still download the high quality raw video file for you, your co-hosts, and guests. This way you can be confident when you share media board files or screen shares, your video and your remote guest video will be untouched. You can still get that raw recording and edit it later. And speaking of the Riverside AI layouts, this is what it will look like if you have you and a co-host side by side. And then when you go into a screen share or share a media board file, you'll see you and your co-host and guests go small picture-in-picture, and then whatever you're sharing will show up large in the video. Riverside does this automatically with our AI layouts. You can learn more about the powerful Riverside editor by clicking the video above or the link in the description. Alright, and finally, this is a little more advanced, but you can also use video switchers with Riverside to have multiple cameras all going into your Riverside recording, and you can switch between them in the middle of your show. For instance, this top-down camera is actually connected to a Blackmagic A10 Mini switcher, and I can switch between this camera and camera 1 back and forth during the recording. I have an entire video on using video switchers with Riverside. You can check out that video out above or in the description. So now you have your video set up, you're recording your video podcast with Riverside. Now what can you do to make sure you keep your audio listeners and maybe even carry them to your video portion? Number one, if you have a long-standing audio podcast, continue to address those audio-only listeners. If you are holding something on camera, let's say it's a phone with a case, make sure to describe what they're seeing. This is my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I have a brown leather case on it. And then you can go on with more commentary. So if you show something on screen, describe what you're showing. It may feel redundant for those on the video side, but actually a lot of people might just play your video in YouTube and then have it in the background or beneath some other windows. So describing what you're showing on screen will help both your audio listeners and your video viewers. Which that's number two. Remember, you now have audio listeners and video viewers. So whenever you refer to your audience or you say listeners, make sure you say listeners and viewers. Or you can say those listening and watching on YouTube. Try to address both whenever you're talking about your audience. Only mentioning one can start alienating the other audience. So referring to both all the time will A, let your listeners know that you actually have a video component, and let your video listeners know that they can subscribe to the audio podcast if they'd like. Plug both any chance you get. Number three, give call to actions that are specific to both audio and video platforms. If you're going to say rate us in your podcast player, you could say give us 5 stars in Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a comment on YouTube. The comment is specifically for your video viewers, and rating 5 stars is specifically for Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Do both. You want people to do both. And if some of those audio listeners want to start engaging with your content, maybe leaving you a comment, that's something they can't really do right now in Apple Podcasts and other podcast players. So that might encourage them to move over to YouTube. This way they can like and comment and engage with you, the host, and your guests. And number four, like you're addressing your audience as listeners and viewers, whenever you talk about the show, say you can listen or watch the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Put it on your website, in your podcast show notes, link all the different destinations everywhere. And now that you have a video component, make sure to start creating vertical clips, and you can do that with one click inside the Riverside dashboard. We actually have a feature called Magic Clips, which will take your podcast or video content and make some vertical clips under a minute. You can edit those further, add those captions on top, and then easily download those and share those to TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Sharing those vertical video clips is the best way to get the word out about your show, promote it to a new audience, gain some new viewers, and your listeners will start seeing those clips on their social media as well and might be inclined to join you on your YouTube channel. So that's how to add video and make it compelling to your audio-only podcast and bring those audio listeners along to your new platform. If you have any questions, leave a comment below this video. I answer all of those personally. And again, if you want to learn more about building a video podcast setup from beginner, intermediate to advanced setups, check out this video right here. And if you'd like to see how you can optimize every platform, including Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music for your show, check out this video right here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Riverside channel before you go, hit that like button, and thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time.